if I hear one more person say that audiobooks don't count as reading, I'm going to lose it. Today, we're going to settle this once and for all, because you might be missing on so many good books just because you refuse to try audiobooks. And I'm not going to hate on you if you have a legit reason as to why you can't listen to audiobooks or why you don't like listening to audiobooks. That's fine. It defeats the purpose if I judge you for not being able to get into it, just like how people judge others who do listen to audiobooks. But I'm going to talk about some common myths that people have about audiobooks, and if you feel like you can relate to any of those, it might mean there's time for a change. Let's give audiobooks a shot. And to sum this all up, at the end, I'm going to give 6 recommendations for audiobooks that I have listened to and absolutely fallen in love with, and just in general, some books that helped me become an audiobook person, if that makes sense. Anyway, let's start. So the first myth is that I zone out. Everybody zones out. I zone out too. You can zone out while you're reading a physical book. You've read the same 4 paragraphs 100 times because your brain has wandered off. That's not an audiobook problem, that's a human problem. The difference in audiobook is that you can just rewind 15 seconds and just start listening to it again, rather than trying to figure out on the book where you left, what have you read 100 times, and where your brain was actually paying attention. It's actually very easy to catch yourself when you're listening to an audiobook. And I feel like your brain is more engaged, at least that is how it is for me, when I'm listening to an audiobook rather than just reading like something quietly. So if you feel like that is it, I'm gonna bust that myth. It's not that. It's not an audiobook problem, it's just your brain in overdrive. The second myth that I hear people talk about is that it doesn't count as reading. This one, it actually makes me a little bit mad, because you're absorbing the same characters, the same plot, the same story in just a different format. Your eyes are not doing the work, but your ears are. So this one, it actually makes like 0 sense to me. And there are actually studies that, and yeah, I have done my research, they actually back this up, that reading and listening to something, they actually engage similar parts of your brain. So it's not like you're taking a shortcut if you're listening to audiobooks. You're just consuming the same thing in a different format. The third one is that I can't focus without the words in front of me. This is usually a genre and a speed problem, not a you problem. If you're starting with a dense literary fiction or a non-fiction that is full of stats, of course it's not going to make sense. Of course it's going to feel like it's so slow and you're losing interest. Start with something that is plot-driven, like a romance or a thriller or a contemporary fiction, something where the plot drives you and you don't have to pay a lot of attention to it. Also, very important, adjust your speed. You have the option to change the speed of the narration of the audiobook in whatever app you use. Mostly, I think people use Audible or Spotify. Audible, I know you have the option. Spotify, I'm not sure if I've not used it. Most people who are audiobook listeners, they don't listen to books at the 1x speed, which is the default one. I listen to it on 1.25x because 1 is just too slow for me, 1.5 is very fast, 1.25 is that sweet spot for me. So this is very important. Please give some time, see what works out for you, and set your speed accordingly. Trust me, the narration quality, it matters so much. An average book can be a really good book if it's narrated well. Now, let me give you a little bit of an incentive to read audiobooks. See, I said read. It is reading. In my head, it literally is reading. But to listen to audiobooks, the payoff, as I like to call it, is that you, in your day, you have so much time where you are not reading. You must be commuting to some place, going to coming back, doing chores in your house, going for a run, walking on the treadmill. You have all these like gaps in your routine which you can fill by listening to audiobooks. I started audiobooking when I used to commute to work. So in the cab, I just once decided that, let me try it out. And I have not looked back since. Now, When I go for a run, I have my audiobook on. Sometimes when I'm in the gym walking on the treadmill, I have my audiobook on. So it's just adding to your reading. It's not replacing it, or it's not like finding a shortcut. You're just, doing more of something that you love. So I hope that changes the way that you look at audiobooks a little bit. If not, that is okay. If you have other reasons that you don't like listening to audiobooks, I would love to know them. Put them in the comments. Let's see what I might have missed or what my brain could not have thought of. Now, coming back to what I promised in the beginning is that I will give you 6 audiobooks. I've tried to pick from different genres just to keep it a little diverse. So these are all 6 that I have listened to from start to finish, loved them. The first one is None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. This book goes in dual POV, so it's very interesting to read. I was hooked to this book from start to finish, and I switched between the book and the audiobook because I was fairly new to audiobooks. So at that time I was switching to and fro. I had the physical book as well, but once I got into the story, I ditched my physical book and I was only listening to it, and it was so much fun. It's like somebody narrating something to you. It builds that suspense. It's just too good. And especially with thrillers, I find myself always skimming towards the end of the page just to see, what is there. Like, I can't control it. So that helps when I'm listening to it, especially a thriller, and not reading it. The second one is The Intruder, which is by Frida McFadden. Very fast-paced, very fun to follow. Frida McFadden books in general, like, they've kind of lost that charm or that spark that they have in her earlier books. But I mean, I get it, like, she has a full-time job, and on the side she's like doing this side hustle, so I respect. But this was just a good stepping stone towards audiobooks. The next one is Assistant to the Villain. This is sort of a magical fantasy realism genre. I don't know if that makes sense, but again, very fun to follow, very funny and goofy. The next one is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. This was, I guess, one of the most fun audiobooks that I have listened to. The number one thing, the narrator who's there in the story, her accent just makes everything so much better. I think it's Swedish, I'm not sure on the accent, but it's just so much fun to hear. I started listening to it as just a filler when I was running, and I just fell in love with this one. Just had my full attention. 100% recommend. The accent just makes everything funnier. The next one is Beach Read, as I already spoke about, by Emily Henry. I have read this book on as a physical copy as well, and I've listened to it on audiobook. Audiobook, in my experience, was way better than when I was reading it. I don't know why. Maybe it was just the time when I was listening to it. I don't know. It just enhanced like everything. Towards the end of the book, there's a really emotional scene, and hearing that, wearing my headphones, like somebody literally shouting it like inside my brain, just was so fun, so good. I did tear up listening to it. Definitely recommend Beach Read. It's a romance, if I didn't mention it. It's a literary romance. A really great story, good characters, good writing, great plot. And the last one is Akatar, A Court of Thorns and Roses, the dramatized version. Now, I did not know that this existed in the audiobook space. This book, of course, it goes on with how your in general narration goes, but because this is a fantasy world and there's like, stuff happening, some like suspenseful things, some happy things, some like tension going on. This has a full-blown production sounds that happen in the background, which just make you feel like you're watching a movie inside your head. It was just so fun to listen to. So if that interests you, out of anything that you want to pick up, I would recommend picking this one up if you have already dipped your toes in the fantasy genre. If you have already read this, I would still recommend listening to this on the audiobook, on the Audible app, the dramatized version. It's just so fun. Just talking about it makes me want to like read it or listen to it again. I can like reimagine how it was. So if you can't tell, this is a person who did not listen to audiobooks up until 2 years back. and endorsing it 100%. Safe to try. Just to sum it all up, in my opinion, audiobooks aren't really like cheating on reading. They're not lesser, they're just another way in. So next time somebody tells you that audiobook does not count as reading, send them this video. And if you have any recommendations for me to listen to books on audio, please let me know. I would love to increase my stats of audiobooks and hopefully find something that I really love. Till then, thank you for watching, and I hope that you listen to an audiobook soon. And when you do, let me know. Till then, bye.